Let's talk about another type of conveyor, that is bucket elevators. So as the name suggests, they use buckets and they are elevators, that mean they are vertical. So there is an endless belt that is attached to two wheels or pulleys uh, in a similar fashion as we have conveyor belts, but this is vertical. So the belt would operate between these two wheels, and generally the top wheel is called as head in this type of conveyor, in this type of belt, and the bottom one is called as foot. So we'll now term these as head and foot. If you look at this picture, it has got demonstration of bucket. On the extreme left you can see that this bucket is more deeper, and in the middle one you can see this is a little sharp with the flaps over to avoid the spillage, and then on the extreme right you can see they are sharp buckets and they are very closely attached as compared to the very first one, bucket elevators, which are very deep. So you can see that they can have different shapes, and the frequency of these buckets, they are attached to these conveyors, it could be different depending upon the kind of end product that we are transporting through these bucket elevators. So as I said, they are very efficient because there is no losses of friction. As the material as such, it gets into the bucket, and when the bucket moves towards the head, it would throw that material into the desired end place where it has to be transported. So there is no friction, direct friction between the product and the surfaces. They can be enclosed in a single housing that is generally termed as leg. So they can be one-legged, or they could have one single housing, or they could have another housing at the top of the one leg. We can have another housing or another leg that could transport this material from one point to another, and then it is carried through to the next bucket or next leg to be carried to another destination. So we would be using a chain of belt that would be carrying these buckets, and they could be shaped rounded or sharp as shown in the demonstration. So this belt would keep on moving between these two wheels, in other words head and foot. And if we have a longer length, like if we need higher elevation for transport of material, then we have to use idlers between these wheels. So these idlers are actually put there to avoid the belt whip. That could be possible because if there's too longer the length of this belt, the whip is possible. So we can avoid that through use of these idlers. So it is the product at the top, as I said, the bucket, when it reaches to the head of the this bucket elevator, it is emptied, and then it moves again and carries the material again back and forth. And the product would be thrown out at the top wheel through centrifugation force. You have to adjust the speed of this bucket elevator around the head of the wheel so that we can maintain the product discharge in a desired region and the amount of product that is actually discharged. So if we go for a higher speed, for example, there may be more, it may be more efficient, but there may be more losses as well. So if we talk about the capacity of this conveying capacity of this bucket elevator, it would depend upon the density of the product, like how heavy is the product, what is the speed of the belt, size of the bucket, and spacing of buckets. For example, if you have got more very less spacing between buckets, it would be carrying higher amount of transport material. So if we talk about the typical application of these bucket elevators, they are generally used for cereal grains, animal feed, and meals, for which they are generally used maybe within poultry farms, poultry processing, or livestock farms, or the places where these are processed. These are where we use bucket elevators. So if we talk about the energy requirement of bucket conveyors of cereal grains, particularly, it generally ranges from zero point 0.1 to zero point 0.2 kilowatt per hour per meter cube. So this, as I said, that knowing the energy requirement of any equipment, it would be very much useful to know the overall energy requirement within a factory setup and the cost of that as well. So this was some detail about bucket elevators that are used in the processing plants.